And I do believe that May 1st is the first day of the transfer portal. But as we've experienced now through these various transfer portal cycles, there will be athletes that will get out ahead of that and they will announce,
Mhm.
even though they can't enter the transfer portal officially, that they will say, I am entering the transfer portal. So with an April 8th spring game, that gives Auburn fans a little bit more time to possibly be concerned, worry, stew about those players who may announce after the end of spring practice that they're entering the transfer portal before there's going to be as many players from the other side, from outside of the Auburn campus, that are potential candidates to join the Auburn football team.
Right. And I don't think there's so much worry going on the side of Auburn fans right now, in terms of people transferring out. Not that we don't value all the athletes that are here and want them to stay and want us to find success with who we have. I think because we are at such a ground zero level with a coaching change, a regime change right now, it really is just kind of one of those things where what's wrong with some more change at this point. When you think about transfers, especially leaving, there's always been the speculation that TJ Finley, starting quarterback for part of the year last year, might transfer out after he finished his spring obligations academic wise. So that's still out there. I will tell you that there's at least some talk that he's been kind of lighting it up in spring camp so far. Again, it's only been one official week and one extra day of practice counting yesterday, but I'm starting to see a lot of people bring that up. Is TJ going to be able to really compete for this starting job? I don't think it's a question, can he compete? It was just maybe a question of, does he want to be here? And maybe this fresh perspective, maybe this regime change has kind of reignited, not just for him, but a lot of other players. So for me, I think that's the big one out there. We're going to lose some players because people are going to find they have less of an opportunity than they thought they were going to have. But at the same time, I'm personally not worried so much about who's leaving. It's more of the excitement of what could we gain in the transfer portal, if that makes sense.
Kyle, what can you tell us about Philip Montgomery and what we can expect out of a Philip Montgomery offense?
Your question, that's a good question. And I wish I had a better answer for you on this one. I have not dove deep into what Philip Montgomery or Ron Roberts, the defensive coordinator, will do. I've heard wild variations on what it will look like. I do know this, that Auburn football is at its best, no matter who the coach is, no matter who the offensive coordinator is, when they put an emphasis on their run game. And when you look at the running backs that we have, even without Tank Bigsby, and by the way, did you see how much he lit it up at the NFL Combine? Just an absolute beast of a man, if anybody ever was questioning that. But Jarquez Hunter, Damari Alston, you're bringing in Jeremiah Cobb, one of the best running back commits and signees now that Auburn's had in probably since Tank Bigsby, just in terms of speculation, right? Jarquez Hunter has, outperformed those speculations and expectations. But the backfield is just primed and ready for Auburn to return to that hard-nosed, just identity that we've had in the running game. So my hope for Philip Montgomery is whatever he chooses, that is going to be at its core, because that's what Auburn fans just seem to latch on to. And obviously you don't want to be stuck in your ways, right? You need to be variable. We saw Brian Harsin and his various offensive coordinators, and I mean various because we had several of them, switch things up from time to time. You've got to go with what's flowing. And I do think Hugh Freeze, who is turning the reins over to Philip Montgomery, is going to give him that freedom to do so. But you know that we're going to have a little bit of flair in there. You've seen the Hugh Freeze offense in the past.
Phil Montgomery, most notably head coach on the Group of Five level. You addressed Robbie Ashford. So how much of Auburn Nation is satisfied with thinking that he is going to be the starting quarterback? Completed 49% of his passes. We've discussed a number of times with you the benefits and the limitations at this point. At least there's a lot of growth to be had as a passer, but the level of contentment going forward that he could once again be the guy.
Yeah, when I talk to people just out and about, there's a lot of, do you think we're going to get this guy in the transfer portal, as opposed to, oh, I'm excited about Robbie, if we're just talking about Robbie in this conversation. And I think that some of that's natural. The grass is always greener on the other side type of mentality. Everybody's trying to look for what's the next biggest and best thing, and we tend to kind of overlook things. Bo Nix had a problem with that a lot, the people kind of overlooking maybe what we had. Not saying he was the best out there, but we probably were a little bit better off with him remaining at Auburn if that could have happened. So for Robbie, as you've heard me say 1,000 times here, I'm really trying to encourage Auburn fans to get on board with him for now being considered the starter and letting us grow with him. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not going to be someone that comes in. That doesn't mean that TJ is not going to win the job and stay at Auburn. Doesn't mean that this, quarterback in Holden Gerner, who's behind him, even a Hank Brown might make some waves who came in with Hugh Freeze. There's a lot of options there, but I would say right now, when you talk to the general public, the question more so is who are we going to get rather than what do you think about Robbie? And that makes me a little sad for him because I think he did a lot of things for us in a very tumultuous year that probably nobody else could have done, considering how our offensive line played. So I think we might need to appreciate Robbie a little bit more.
So, regardless of what happens in any other sports, in particular men's basketball, is Auburn always a football school, or is that basketball team really vying for the affections of the Auburn sports fan?
I would argue this year we were more of a basketball school until the basketball team underperformed a little bit. And then there was some, we'll say some frustrations there as well. We pitch this, every bit of marketing we can. I do myself, and we mean it. We're an everything school. We love everything about Auburn, and so we will dive headlong into it. The proof really is in things in professional sports for Auburn. If you look at what will happen, or even just, maybe collegiate events such as the NCAA March Madness, look at the ticket prices for the session that Auburn is in versus some of the other schools out there. Now, granted, it's because we got the Birmingham Regional. That's obvious. But in professional sports, Jabari Smith, Walker Kessler, you got Auburn fans tuning in nightly to watch him play. That's a demographic centralizing from, the Southeast that some of these teams that they play for probably never had. So there's a reason that when we say we're an everything school, we mean it. Auburn football will always be king. It will drive what our mood is. And if then basketball fails, then our mood will probably be even more sour. But we do try to live by us trying to be an everything school.
Kyle Loomis, E2C Network. It's everything Auburn, meaning it's not just football. It's just not men's basketball. It's women's basketball. It's baseball. Baseball is huge at Auburn. I know that from being down there for 7 years in the SEC, covering SEC baseball. It's unlike anywhere else in the country. Track everything that they do connected to Auburn University. They're on E2C Network. Kyle, appreciate you stopping by.
As always, I appreciate you having me, and hopefully we'll have a lot more to talk about next week with spring practice getting a little further underway.